Josh.
Yeah.
What movie plot twist totally broke your mind?
I'm so sorry to everyone watching this, because if you've watched any of my lists over the years, I'll have talked about this moment to death because I can't stop thinking about it. It's a moment early on in the movie Hereditary, an absolutely excellent horror movie by Ari Aster that reveals the character who you assume is going to be one of the primary either protagonists or antagonists is not going to be in the movie at all because she's dead. All the way through the early part of this movie, and indeed in the trailers that came out before release, the focus was on a young girl called Charlie who kind of had this strange clicking noise and was kind of up to no good, for lack of a better term. She was like cutting off the heads of dead pigeons and essentially being set up to either be possessed by a demon or to kind of go a little bit nuts further on in the flick. And the trailers emphasized her so much to the point where you went in, like I said, assuming she was going to be a main character. But then, after a few shenanigans where her brother goes to a party and starts smoking weed and doesn't start and stops kind of looking after her, she eats these brownies, I think, then she has an allergic reaction to them. So with him being high, he has to drive her home and she's in the back of the car and she's choking and it's this really intense scene. And then when she's gasping for air, as they're barreling down this road in the pitch black, she sticks her head out the window and then the brother drives into a road post and suddenly comes to a stop. And in this moment, I'm in the cinema and I'm thinking like, they must be like subverting our expectations. Like they can't have killed her. Like what's going on? Is this a dream sequence? He's stopped in the car. You don't actually cut to the back seat for a little bit. You linger on his face in his kind of, in that moment he's in this disbelief and you're in disbelief that it could have happened, but then, you know, it outright shows it. She has been decapitated in the back of the car. She is dead. He drives home. He leaves the body in the car. And he just goes to bed and allows the parents to find it in the morning. But what's so great about it is that it genuinely makes you think like this can't be happening because it puts you in his headspace. I imagine he's also thinking like, please wake up, this has to be a dream. It's not a dream. The movie continues on from there. And I just think it's a perfect way to say all bets are off. Everything you thought you knew about this movie, yeah, you don't know nothing. You can be scared, you can be frightened, we're gonna have twists, we're gonna have turns. What a great way to just kind of smash your expectations and say, nah.
What movie plot twist totally broke your mind?
Oh, what did I put down for this one? Oh yes, no, I do remember now. Yes, so the movie plot twist that broke my mind isn't actually going to be a plot twist that isn't going to make sense to anyone but me. I was going to talk about Witness, but I already did a video on that for Whatculture. You should go check out. It's a great movie. There's a great plot twist in there that gives me lots of goosebumps. It's really good. But the one I'm going to talk about today is from Die Hard with a Vengeance right now. Everyone who's already seen that movie is now already going, what's so mind-blowing about that plot twist? But I have context here that is very important. So growing up, Die Hard with a Vengeance was the first Die Hard movie that my parents ever showed to me. I think it's because they thought the first two were maybe a little bit too violent, and in the UK at least, we had a censored cut. There was certain, if you watch Die Hard with a Vengeance in the UK right now, it's all the blood and gore and whatever, but back like 15, 20 years ago, in fact 20 years ago, it was censored, so there was less blood or whatever. So they showed me that one when I was about, I think I was like 9 or 10, and I was just completely enraptured. I thought this was my gateway into like the world of grown-up cinema, which it kind of essentially was. It was like I'm you know, moving out of like Star Wars land now and going into different things. And Die Hard with a Vengeance again is my favorite Die Hard movie to this day. I think it's beautifully crafted. John McTiernan is just the action goat. He's fantastic. But the whole big twist with that movie is that Simon, played by Jeremy Irons, is in actual fact Hans Gruber's brother. And the amazing thing with that scene, it's orchestrated so well. The tension is brilliant. I think again, Die Hard with a Vengeance is so underrated, I feel. Even though it's generally well received, I don't think it gets as much credit as it should do. And when they reveal that it's Simon Gruber, it's Hans' brother, there's that great bit where after this entire time, kind of John McClane's been acting all exhausted but cocky, and the FBI agents tell him who it is. And he has that blank expression on his face where he looks genuinely afraid. And it has that brief shot, goosebumps, that brief shot of where it cuts to Hans falling, Alan Rickman plunging off Nakatomi Tower. And I remember being a kid thinking, well, this obviously has no meaning to me. I don't know who Hans Gruber is. But in that moment, I just felt like this rich tapestry, this mythology of Die Hard was being opened up to me, and it completely piqued my interest. The idea of like, oh my god, it was weirdly, it just made it more effective for me in a very weird way. And obviously I go back and watch Die Hard with a Vengeance now, and I'm like, oh, you know, it's effective because it is Hans's brother, it's got all that baggage and history. But watching it at that time, it blew my mind. Like the idea of like this big kind of like universe of things for me to still discover. And that's why Die Hard with a Vengeance, partially why it has like such a big place in my heart, but also just an amazing movie, and that scene in particular like might be the best one. It's so well done.
What movie plot twist totally broke your mind?
Right, well, this is probably quite an obvious answer, because it's like, you know, you're looking at like the best movie plot twist of all time. Memento is always on there, right? Memento, and you know, it's probably lazy to say, oh, it's got such a great plot twist, because we've all said this before. But the thing that really interests me about Memento is that I've seen that film so many times now, you know, and I think I remember the first time I saw it, and that twist kind of comes up where Joe Pantoliano is like, no, we killed John G. Yeah,
What?
Joey Pants.
Joey Pants.
You know, and he goes, we killed John G ages ago. There's plenty of John G's, you know. I'm a John G, Jesus Christ, you know. But I felt sorry for you, like, you know, I'm a dirty cop, and, you know, you're helping me kill all these criminals, whatever. So then he decides, you know, don't believe his lies. You know, and he goes out and gets Teddy. And I remember the first time I watched that, I was like, well, he's just lying, isn't he? He's clearly just lying, and he is John G, and Leonard's gone and got John G, you know, because I just wanted a kind of simplistic, neat ending. No, it's all right, you got there. And every time I've watched it since, you know, I still can't quite come to a full conclusion on what's happened at the end, you know, in this twist. It's like, you know, there he is going, hey, you know, I've been helping you knock off John G's for ages. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm sure you have, but are you still the villain in this? Because, like, is that still, like, massively exploiting this guy for your own ends? So, like, do you kind of deserve to be getting shot and mistaken for the real John G, you know? And you know, there's people have all these theories about, like, the whole Sammy Jankis thing, like, he was never real. You know, that's just Leonard again. That's just a kind of poetic way of Leonard coming to terms with his own problems. And again, I can't quite work out where I sit on that. And yeah, for something I've seen so many times, every single time I come away from that film with like a slightly different take on all of those twists. And I think that's really impressive for a film that, you know, came out a long time ago and people talk about a lot. It's like, they do a really good job of giving you a pretty mind-blowing twist that still actually leaves you with so many questions, you know. Normally a twist, like, kind of answers everything a different way. All it does is blows the whole thing wide open. And, yeah, to still be able to go back and watch Memento, it's one of the films I've seen more than anything. And I can still stick that on, and by the end of it just be like, whoa, hang on a second, what's going on? What's going on with this film? It's pretty mind-bending.
What movie plot twist totally broke your mind?
One of my favourite films ever. Atonement. Now, I'm not really a romance film kind of person, generally. But I really enjoy Atonement. I think it's a brilliant film. I think maybe it's the wartime setting. I'm a sucker for a wartime setting film. There's a beautiful 5-minute continuous shot of Dunkirk Beach in that film that is just perfect in every single way. The music is amazing, just all of the action, everything about that particular shot is fantastic. But the whole point of the film is that it's building up towards a happy ending. And you think there is a happy ending, until it's revealed that the last third of the film that you've seen has just been a fabrication made up by the character so that she can make herself feel better. And you're like, what? What? Hang on. So they didn't meet up and fall in love and get the happy ending, they died? And I was like, well, I'm thinking about it, it makes sense. It's a film set during the war. Not many people did get a happy ending, so it makes sense. But it suddenly cuts to like modern day, and you've got the character of Bryony, now old, with a book. And you're like, what's happening? Hang on a second. They were in the war a minute ago, and now okay, and then she just drops that bomb on you. Turns out, none of that happened. I just wrote that to make myself feel better. They died. They never got their happy ending. Buy my book! And yeah, great film. A little bit like, oh, okay.
Okay, Gareth. What movie plot twist broke your mind?
Broke my mind. I like the MCU is now past tense thing, I think. It's like up to a point I adored the MCU. Now I'm kind of picking up moments. There was an incredible moment, and I can't remember for the life of me. I think it was Phase 3, I want to say? Phase 3? Spider-Man Homecoming. I think that's Phase 3. And I was along for the ride. Love Michael Keaton. I thought he was bringing something incredible to the role of the Vulture, and like I was so wrapped up in it. And then it got to the moment where Tom Holland's Spider-Man goes to the house to pick up his date. Liz is his date, and opens the door. Mr. Keaton's there. Adrian Toomes. That's the dad. The dad is the Vulture. His face drops, and the way Tom Holland sells it is fantastic. Like, I can take him or leave him. Outside of being Spider-Man, I'm still not 100% sold. I always kind of like, I'll happily say that. I'm rooting for him. I hope he does something incredible soon. But that moment, I was like, okay, this kid's got some chops here, because this is a moment. This is tense. And then they get in the car, and then it's just the slow unpacking of this kid right here. There's something fishy going on. And then there's that tiny little detail when they're in the car, and he's waiting at the red light, and he asks him a certain question, and the way he answers it makes him twig and go, that's Spider-Man. And I think Keaton turns around and goes, good old Spider-Man. And the light goes to green on his face, and it's like, oh, he knows. And then there's a really awesome moment of humanity after that, where like Liz leaves, and he says, you know what? I'm gonna give you a chance now. You've saved my daughter. You've been a good guy. Leave. Forget all this. I'm gonna kill you and everyone you love. And it's just, I vividly again remember being sat in that cinema when the initial twist happened and there were audible gasps, and you just don't get that. What was it, 2017? I've not really experienced that since, which is a bit shocking, but that was one of those moments. And then everything that came after it just heightened it and enriched the moment. So I just adored that. That's a twist that blew my mind. Might not be the greatest twist of all time, but it is one that stuck with me.